Namaste. Now another wonderful occasion to read another chapter from Swami Anand Arun's book Lone Seeker, Many Masters. And this time I intend to read the 9th chapter, which is about Jaya Krishnamurti. So sit down or lie down comfortably and listen to my voice as you were listening to running water. Yeah, and please enjoy. Nothing to be serious about. Jaya Krishnamurti. Krishnamurti is one of the most beautiful men of the last century. My association with Krishnamurti is not a mere coincidence. I am naturally inclined towards enlightened masters, but my fascination with Krishnamurti goes deeper than just a mere attraction. Wonderful picture of Jaya Krishnamurti. Around 2500 years ago, a girl named Krisha Gautami was born into a poor family in India. She grew up to become a very beautiful woman and was married to a man from an aristocratic family. However, since she came from a poor family, she was greatly disrespected and humiliated by her in-laws. When she gave birth to a beautiful boy, her family started giving her due respect. She was greatly attached to her son, but her happiness was short-lived. Suddenly, her son died, and this brought forth great despair in her. Utterly devastated, she went around the village, begging everyone to breathe life back into the dead body of her child. The villagers felt only Buddha could restore peace in Krisha's tormented soul. So a relative advised her to go and meet Gautam Buddha, who was on a retreat at Chetwan. Krisha rushed to meet Buddha immediately. The grief had stolen all beauty from her, and all that remained of her was a ghastly and bedraggled apparition. She knelt at Buddha's feet and started howling inconsolably. She begged him to make her child alive again. Seeing her tragic state, Buddha consoled her and said, "Don't cry. I can make your son alive again, but you have to bring me some yellow mustard seeds first." Hope glimmered on Krisha's eyes again. She gathered herself and was about to leave. The yellow mustard seeds, after all, were not all that difficult to find. Just then Buddha said, "But there is a condition. You have to bring the mustard seeds from a house where nobody has ever died." Krisha went from house to house with her dead child. When she would reach a house, she would ask, "Nobody from this house has died, have they?" But the answer would always be the same. She went around the city of Shravasti all day, but couldn't find one house where nobody had died. As dusk approached, she realized that somebody had died in each household, and that death was inevitable. When she realized the inevitability of death, a certain calm gradually descended upon her. She then went to Buddha and surrendered to him and became initiated into his Sangha. Soon she achieved the state of Shrotapanna, the state where one comes in contact with the source within oneself. According to the famous mystic Annie Besant, Krisha Gautami was born again in Andhra Pradesh, India, in a village called Madanpalli on May 11, 1895, into a simple Brahmin family as Chidu Krishnamurti. In 1909, while Charles Webster, leadbeater, was on an evening walk on a Tamil Nadu beach, he spotted Krishnamurti and his brother Nitya. Leadbeater was a member of the Theosophist Society established in 1875 by Russian seer Madame Blavatsky and American transcendentalist Colonel Olcott to bring to earth the consciousness of Maitreya Buddha. Leadbeater was adept in parapsychology. As Mary Lutyens has described in Krishnamurti's biography, Leadbeater saw the mesmerizing aura of the boy at once. She has related the description of his aura as a radiant globe of flashing colors, its high vibration sending ripples of changing hues over its surface, hues of which earth knows nothing, brilliant, soft, and luminous. Leadbeater felt that the search of 34 years for the medium of the Maitreya consciousness was over. Annie Besant, the president of the society, also received confirmation of this from her masters on the astral plane. Leadbeater and Annie Besant started training Krishnamurti and Nitya to become the mediums of Maitreya Buddha under strict rules and discipline. They were especially trained in the mystical yoga science. It is said that they were brought in contact with the masters of the astral world who gave them esoteric training. During this phase, Krishnamurti wrote the book At the Feet of the Master when he was only 14. A show regards this as the best book written by Krishnamurti, but Krishnamurti later refuted having written it. Krishnamurti was sent to the best institutions of England. Since an early age, he traveled around the world and gave discourses as the future medium of Buddha. In 1922, he became enlightened under a large pepper tree in Ojai, California. The Theosophists had established an organization called the Order of the Star of the East to propound a new world religion with Krishnamurti as its leader. The members of this organization included more than 100,000 intellectuals and wealthy people. The future world's spiritual leader, Krishnamurti, was kept under strict discipline and was prevented from building friendships, especially with women. On August 3, 1929, during the annual Star Camp of the Order of the Star of the East in Ommen, Holland, Krishnamurti was expected to address the audience as the world's spiritual leader. But to everyone's shock, he dissolved the order with his historical declaration, "I maintain that truth is a pathless land, and you cannot approach it by any path whatsoever, by any religion, by any sect." After this, he started traveling around the world as an independent thinker and talked about the human being who is free from all conditioning and organized religion. Krishnamurti was a very sensitive and compassionate person. The prevalence of violence and hatred around the world saddened him throughout his life. He had to see 2 world wars. In his view, nationalism created an artificial sense of division within humanity. He refused to align himself with any nationality. Krishnamurti was in St. Peter's Square when the Pope was being carried on a sedan chair. The Pope stopped the sedan to lean out and ask Krishnamurti, "Are you an Indian?" Krishnamurti replied, "I am supposed to be from India." Whether or not the Pope read his sarcasm between the lines remains unknown, but he studied Krishnamurti's face intently and said, "I like your face." Krishnamurti had a very refined sense of aesthetics. His every gesture, every action reflected his deep-seated appreciation of beauty. He was very particular about his wardrobe. When in Europe, he used to dress in fitting trousers and shirts, and in India he wore starched linen kurta pajamas. Once somebody asked him why he switched his wardrobes between Europe and India, to which he replied, "I don't want to offend anyone by trying to stand out among them. I don't want people to perceive me as someone other than themselves." When I visited Pine Cottage in Ojai, California, where Krishnamurti spent most of his life, I met a rather amicable gentleman, Friedrich Grohe, who shared some anecdotes from Krishnamurti's life with me. Mr. Grohe has beautifully recounted his memories with Krishnamurti in his book The Beauty of the Mountain. According to him, Krishnamurti loved polishing his own shoes. Until his last days, he often polished his shoes himself. It once happened that Krishnamurti was out in the porch polishing his shoes when he noticed a pair of grubby shoes. Without any hesitation, he started polishing them as well. The gentleman who owned the shoes came down to the porch only to find Krishnamurti busy polishing his shoes. He was embarrassed beyond description. Thereafter, all the visitors became careful not to leave their soiled shoes in Krishnamurti's sight. Krishnamurti was oblivious of his position or his influence over people. His simplicity and his courtesy remained unsoiled by his growing popularity. Mr. Grohe recalled how during his usual morning walks in Rajghat, India, Krishnamurti used to hold hands with children who followed him in a curious caravan and would impart occasional affectionate smiles at ice cream vendors along the way. He never considered himself a leader or a teacher of any kind. He forged an unpretentious and close relationship with anyone who came his way. His resistance to master-disciple relationship was partly a reaction to the harsh training of the Theosophical Society. Osho has said that if he had been left to his own means, Krishnamurti would have taken 2 more lives to attain enlightenment. The arduous training hastened his spiritual growth, but left him embittered, grieving for lost childhood and adolescence. Krishnamurti's rebellion against the Theosophical Society is nothing but an expression of the same embitterment. My understanding is that there are 3 main reasons why Krishnamurti left the Theosophical Society. The first one, obviously, is the death of Nitya. After Nitya left his body unexpectedly, Krishnamurti realized that the forced esoteric experiments could be disastrous, hence his lifelong insistence on natural living. The second reason was that when Krishnamurti was young, he wasn't allowed to mix with women. This unnatural abstinence greatly scared young Krishnamurti. Leadbeater was a declared misogynist. He saw women with contempt and tried to influence his young pupil accordingly. Krishnamurti was far too sensitive to be corrupted. As we can often read in his journals, he had a very heightened sense of beauty. A single tree could move him to tears. In his own words, coming over the stile into the grove, one felt immediately a great sense of peace and stillness. Not a thing was moving. It seemed sacrilegious to walk through it, to treat the ground. It was profane to talk, even to breathe. The great redwood trees were absolutely still. You stood still, hardly daring to breathe. You felt you were an intruder, for you had been chatting and laughing, and to enter this grove, not knowing what lay there, was a surprise and a shock, the shock of an unexpected benediction. Jaya Krishnamurti. Brockwood Park, first entry, 14th of September 1973. Of course, if a single tree could instill such profundity in him, it was foolish to assume he would pass untouched by the beauty of a woman. Later, Krishnamurti had intimate affairs with many women, most of whom remained his close confidants throughout his life. Osho has often commented on how sexuality is not a hindrance, but a passage for a genuine seeker. He said, "It so happens that the more sexual a person is, the more inventive he or she can be. The more sexual a person is, the more intelligent he or she is. With less sex energy, less intelligence exists. With more sexual energy, more intelligence, because sex is a deep search to uncover not only bodies, not only the body of the opposite sex, but everything that is hidden." But it will be a long time before humanity grows wise enough to discern the wisdom in Osho's words. The third reason Krishnamurti left the Theosophical Society was Leadbeater's rumored homosexuality. So Krishnamurti never validated the rumors. It is believed that Leadbeater's alleged affairs had also been one of the reasons for the rift. After Krishnamurti abandoned a Theosophical Society, he traveled around the world giving spontaneous talks. 70 books have been transcribed from his talks. The books are translated into 47 languages, millions of copies of which are sold each year. He has established modern school running in accord with his philosophy in Ojai, California, and Brookwood Park, England, Rajkot, Banaras, Rishi Valley, Andhra Pradesh, Madras, and Uttarkashi. As Krishnamurti grew older, he started practicing yoga again. He had been rigorously trained in yoga in the Theosophical Society, but when he left, he abandoned all prescribed routine as well. When his health started to fail, he returned to yoga and pranayama, learning from the famous yoga guru B.K. Iyengar. Krishnamurti practiced yoga regularly until his last days, which helped him to retain his posture and agility. Krishnamurti is one of the most beautiful men of the last century. His body was frail and delicate, and yet it emanated such grace and beauty. While many were touched by his penetrating discourses, his physical beauty had also stirred many. George Bernard Shaw made a famous statement: "He is the most beautiful person I have ever met." Khalil Gibran considered him the manifestation of the God of love. Aldous Huxley, who was very close to Krishnamurti, said, "When you listen to him, it's like listening to Buddha himself." Throughout his life, Krishnamurti denounced organized religion, priests, and religious fundamentalism. He did not expound any philosophy or religion, but rather talked on the things that concern all of us in our everyday lives. He explained beautifully the subtle workings of the human mind and pointed to the need for bringing to our daily lives a deeply meditative and spiritual quality. The mysterious meetings. I have always felt a deep admiration for Krishnamurti. When he was still alive, I had tried many times to meet him, but somehow the meeting never happened. In 2009, 2 decades after Krishnamurti left his body, I was in California conducting an Osho meditation camp. We were about a 5-hour drive away from the Pepper Tree retreat at Ojai, the place where Krishnamurti attained enlightenment and spent many years of his life. Ojai is to the lovers of Krishnamurti what Shravasti is to the Buddhists. I had read a lot about the place. Krishnamurti has often described the beautiful nature that surrounded the retreat in his journals. He had attained enlightenment under a larger pepper tree, after which the retreat is named. Krishnamurti has described the moment of enlightenment as follows: "I sat under the pepper tree, which is near the house, cross-legged in the meditation posture. When I had sat thus for some time, I felt myself going out of my body. I saw myself sitting down with the delicate, tender leaves of the tree over me. The fountain of truth has been revealed to me, and the darkness has been dispersed. Love in all its glory has intoxicated my heart. My heart can never be closed. I have drunk at the fountain of joy and eternal beauty. I am God intoxicated." Lutyens married Krishnamurti, The Years of Awakening. Krishnamurti's poetic description of Ojai had made a deep imprint on me. Naturally, I wanted to visit a pepper tree retreat. We called the reception and booked 4 rooms. There was not much activity going on there, and the receptionist informed us over the phone that she only worked until 5 p.m. She said that she would leave the keys in a basket in the reception desk. Since the retreat only provided bed and breakfast, we had to arrange for dinner ourselves. After a rather tiring drive, we arrived there at around 9 in the evening. The nearest cafe was about a 4-kilometer walk from the retreat. Ramesh and Amritananda, my fellow sannyasins who had accompanied me, left for the cafe. I was so thrilled to be there that I much preferred to miss my dinner than miss the exhilarating presence of the place. So I stayed back giving up dinner. Chanda, another sannyasin from our group, stayed back with me. After my friends left for the cafe, I began my adventurous tour around the house. I had read so much about the place that every sight filled me with nostalgia. The orange trees that spread all over the property left the air fragrant and tangy. The house was furnished tastefully in minimalist design. I walked through the corridor like an excited child on a treasure hunt. Each piece of furniture, each book, each tree spoke directly to me. I strolled joyfully and stumbled upon the main kitchen. I walked into the room and found some bread and eggs in the refrigerator. I made myself some toast and an omelette and had a rather nice dinner. About an hour later, my friends returned back from the cafe, disappointed. Apparently there wasn't much to choose from on the menu, since my friends were vegetarian and the cafe served mostly non-vegetarian food. It was about midnight when they returned, so we called it a day and retired to our respective rooms. Although we had had a very tiring day, I didn't feel the least bit exhausted or sleepy. I also felt a presence. It was strange, because the presence was so palpable. I felt I was continuously being watched over or followed by someone. Of course, there was no one around, but neither was I alone. I fell asleep briefly as morning approached. The entire night I browsed through the library in the adjacent room. There were a good many books on many different genres, including Krishnamurti's favorite detective novels. The next morning we had a very delicious organic breakfast. I also met Mr. Grohe for the first time that day. Ours was an instant bonding. He loved narrating the incidents from Krishnamurti's life, and I was an eager audience. He told me many anecdotes. He also fondly recalled one particular joke Krishnamurti often cracked. Once God felt like knowing how humans lived in the world. He came to earth with St. Peter. People were toiling away and looked very busy just to sustain their lives. He asked Peter, "Why are people so busy?" Peter replied, "Well, it's because you have told them to earn by making their own effort." God smirked and said, "Well, that was just a joke." During his tour, God reached the Vatican. He saw that the priests were seated in a dining hall and lots of fruits, desserts, and expensive wine was laid out on the table. "And who are they?" he asked Peter. "These are the folk who have understood your joke very well," replied Peter. He also showed me around Pine Cottage where Krishnamurti lived. The construction looked rather new, so I inquired if Krishnamurti had lived there all his life. "No," he replied. "He spent 30 years of his life in the same room where you stayed overnight." His reply left me speechless. I had many mystical experiences that night, all of which I cannot reveal here. What I can say is that I had always longed to meet him in person, but the meeting happened 24 years after he left his body in his private bedroom, in the bed where he slept for 30 years. My association with Krishnamurti is not a mere coincidence. I am naturally inclined towards enlightened masters, but my fascination with Krishnamurti goes deeper than just a mere attraction. Truth is a complex phenomenon that cannot always be perceived rationally. On the spiritual path, seekers avoid revealing the truth because there is a great possibility of it being misunderstood. But I remember the lines of Indira Devi that truth doesn't need to be validated by the masses. Today, when I narrate the story of Krisha Gautami, it is as if no time has lapsed since then. I have had visions and indications from my master that I was a disciple of Buddha in one of my past lives. In that life, I was a bhikkhu of the Shravashti Sangha. When Krisha Gautami had reached Buddha, maybe I too had witnessed her transformation. But one thing that is certain is that the intimacy and familiarity which I share with Krishnamurti extends beyond life. The same year that we visited a pepper tree retreat, we inaugurated Osho Niranjana, our commune at San Diego, California, which is only a 6-hour drive from Ocha. When I visited the commune again in 2014, the pepper tree retreat drew me again. We made an online reservation and were almost ready to go when an unforeseen problem arose and we had to cancel the trip. Of course, I wasn't surprised because these unexpected interventions had become a rather regular phenomenon when it came to things associated with Krishnamurti. We had already made the payment, so we called them and cancelled the booking. They explained that we could only receive 50% refund and that too couldn't be made in cash. The refund would be applied the next time we visited the place. As the trip was cancelled, I remember another joke Krishnamurti often cracked. There are 3 monks who had been sitting in deep meditation for many years amidst the Himalayan snow peaks, never speaking a word in utter silence. One morning, one of the 3 suddenly speaks up and says, "What a lovely morning this is," and he falls silent again. 5 years of silence pass when all at once the second monk speaks up and says, "But we could do with some rain." There is silence among them for another 5 years, when suddenly the third monk says, "Why can't you two stop chattering?" I remembered the joke and laughed to myself. My meetings with Krishnamurti were just as sporadic. I was denied one more opportunity to go and visit him. I knew Krishnamurti was playing his usual pranks on me, but even as he denied me the meeting, he made sure that I had to go and visit him again, if only for the $150 that was credited in my name at a pepper tree retreat as the due refund. So, this was the chapter about Krishnamurti. I hope you enjoyed it, and I send you love and many blessings. Bye bye. Namaste.